everybody, it's Patrick from Patrick & Friends Music Company, and today we're going to talk about how to play our B dominant 7th chord. This is a chord you're going to come across in many different songs, but it's a pretty challenging chord. And for a lot of people, it's a barrier for them to learn their favorite song or chord progression. In this video, we're going to break down how to play your B dominant 7th, and then go over some ways to overcome some of those challenges or issues that you may be facing. Now we're spending an entire lesson on this B dominant 7th chord, but if you want to learn about your other open dominant 7th chords, make sure you check out our last video, where I'll include a link in the description below. But let's get right to it and start learning about our B dominant 7th chord. For our B dominant 7th chord, also known as our B7, we're going to start with the middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, our index finger on the 1st fret of the D string, our ring finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and our pinky on the 2nd fret of our high E string. And we're going to leave our B string open, and we don't want to play our low E string, so you want to avoid that string whenever you play this chord. Once you got your chord set up, play all 5 strings together. To make sure the chord sounds really good and every string is ringing out, hit each string individually. Now, if each of those strings sound great and they're ringing out, you're ready to start working on your B dominant 7th chord. However, there may be some challenges or issues you might be facing with this chord. Now, one of the biggest challenges with our B dominant 7th chord is muted strings. And probably the primary cause of this is having flat fingers and not keeping your fingers curved and using your fingertips. There's 2 fingers we really need to keep curved, and that's our middle finger and our ring finger. If our middle finger is too flat, it's going to run into the D string and cause that to mute. So if you're hearing that sound, curve your middle finger until you can hear that D string. Now, the 1st fret of the D string is a really important note that's part of the chord, so we really need to hear that. Now, with our ring finger, if we keep that flat, it's going to run into our open B string and cause that to mute. So curve your ring finger until you can hear that open B string ring. Now, I will actually say that open B string is not a necessity to play your B dominant 7th chord. And that's because we already have that B note in our chord shape an octave lower. However, this string will make your chord sound better and fuller. So what I suggest is don't let this B string prevent you from playing your B dominant 7th chord. However, work towards it so you can get your B string to ring out so your chord can sound the best it can be. So another common problem with this B dominant 7th chord is that your fingers can feel a little cramped. So what I suggest doing is working on this chord one note, one string at a time. So start with your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A, add your index finger on the 1st fret of the D, and make sure those 2 notes sound good. Then add your ring finger on the 2nd fret of the G. Make sure those 3 notes sound good. You can actually move this shape kind of around the fretboard to just make sure you get used to that feeling. So then go back to your B dominant 7th shape, add your B string, then finally your pinky on the 2nd fret of the high string. Make sure all these notes sound good. Working on it one string at a time will really help you get down the shape and help your fingers feel a little less cramped over time. Once you get your B dominant 7th chord down, you really feel comfortable with it, then you can start working on this practice technique to start getting your chord down consistently. And this is a technique with this chord, but with all of your chords that you learn. So what you're going to do is start off with your B dominant 7th chord, make sure it sounds good. Then lift your fingers up, put them back down. This will really help you get your chord down consistently and really help develop that muscle memory. Now, if you do that and you get a muted string in there, just fix it, try to figure out the problem, and lift up your fingers, put them back down, and make sure the chord sounds good before and after. Now, if you're a beginner, you can still do this technique by putting down one finger at a time. So set up your chord, make sure it sounds good. Lift up your fingers and then put them down one at a time, making sure that each note sounds good. Now just work like this until you get a little more advanced and put all of your fingers down at a time. Then when you get really comfortable, what you can try is the same exercise, except when you lift up your fingers, wiggle them around, move them around, get them out of your shape and put them back down. This can really ensure that you get your chord down consistently and will really help you when you start playing chord progressions that involve your B dominant 7th chord. B dominant 7 is a really important chord to learn on guitar. However, like we discussed, there are some challenges that you might face when you try to learn this chord. Just take it step by step and really make sure you nail it down. Once you got your chord down, start switching between chords. So go from your B dominant 7 to other chords, and then from other chords to your B dominant 7. I hope to see you in the next video, but in the meantime, happy practicing.